All right, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is how to read and understand scientific articles, because we're going to be doing a lot of reading of different scientific themed journals or maybe some news articles that are coming out. I love to do current events, so you guys will be doing those pretty frequently actually throughout this year. So because you are starting this without probably having seen me, so because you are creating this first before we have any packets out, you're actually going to create your own Cornell Notes page. So I am going to just do that real quick. I start about 2 inches from the bottom, make the line, that's for my summary. And then at the top, I just use about the ruler's width, make a line, that's for my header. And then along the side, just however much space you think you might need for your key ideas, make another line. I probably could have not drawn there. It doesn't matter. So let me get a different pen out for this. Just gonna write in Sharpie so you guys can see a little bit better. So I want you to title your notes. This one isn't working. Hold, please. Nope. None of my Sharpies are working. There we go. Okay. How to read a science article. So you guys are going to be doing current events, and you're going to be reading through an article and taking notes on it. Last year was a little bit more free form. This year we are going to get a little bit more specific on how we're going to set it up and how I want you to make sure you are putting all of your notes down. So the first thing you want to do is, when it comes to choosing your article, sorry, I'm trying to get this all straightened out. When it comes to choosing your article, you want to make sure it's at your level. So don't choose anything that has a whole bunch of words in the first paragraph you don't understand. Don't choose something that is so easy that you can zoom through the whole thing in 2 minutes. You want to pick something that challenges you a little bit. But is still readable. And you want it to be from a credible source. We will talk about how you can use the internet safely and appropriately in a little bit. But for now, I suggest 2 different sites. Science News for Students .org or Science Daily. You don't need an extra dot there. ScienceDaily.com. And I'm going to walk you through those 2, and we're going to pick an article and kind of look through it together. So once you've chosen an article, this is how I want you to take notes on it. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a little divider because I'm changing major topics. So you want to make sure you have the title and the author, if it's provided. If it's not provided, then it might give you a research facility or a university that is getting credit for the research by somebody that works there. And then you're going to have the date that it was published. And this needs to be 6 months or less ago. So like today's date is 8/21/20. Then the last date that this article could be published would be on 2/21/20. So if this is today, then the earliest date of publish would be then. And the reason for this is there's so much science happening right now that I don't want you to go through and find an article that is maybe accurate but isn't anymore. Things are changing so frequently and we're finding out so many new things that if you go much older than 6 months, unless I tell you to find something that might be a little bit older specifically, then this is probably going to be your most accurate information. Even now, if you think about everything going around with COVID, you could look at an article a week ago and it's no longer accurate. So I want you to make sure that you're choosing something within the last 6 months, and there should be plenty to choose from. And then if you are choosing your own current event, you are not allowed to choose a scientist says, or a definition article. So these are articles that are posted, like if we look at Science News for Students in just a second, they will have things like scientists say, or did you know what a supernova was? While those are informative, it's not actually a current event. It's just defining something that is a scientific principle. So then once you have chosen your article, you need to have at least 3 facts in detail. You can have more, but you cannot have any less. Science likes number 3, and we will talk about that a lot. So the 3 facts in detail, you're not going to do word for word, in your own words. And you're going to make sure that they really encompass the bulk of what that article is. If the article is super short, that might be another reason you want to go ahead and find something else, because you need to find 3 solid pieces of information that you can reference. And then I want to know what is important to the world. So even the weirdest sort of problems, science is trying to solve all the time. And so somebody is benefiting from what that article says somewhere. It could be an animal, it could be plants, it could be why you think this is important 10 years from now. But I want you to try to figure out why it's important enough for somebody to study and also publish. Other things that you might want to have are writing down words you don't know. And this is because you're going to be looking up those words later. Please do not try to find an article just because you know all the words in it. You need to try to find something that pushes you and helps you to learn new ideas and new topics. And then maybe write down a topic that interests you for next time. You can also put down your own thoughts and your own opinions off to the side, but they won't go in your summary. They might be something really interesting that we can bring up in class, though, and have a discussion on, or maybe you kind of want to look into this topic more because of something that you heard. But generally, Science doesn't really like opinions. They just like facts. And then you are going to end up writing your own paragraph, so 4 to 5 sentences, rewriting the article, using the information that you wrote down up here, and telling everybody what you thought about it. So let's go ahead and find an article. I'm going to show you the 2 different websites, and then we will go through and take some notes. Okay, so this is Science News for Students, and it's got really great articles that are pretty easy to understand. You can find things on tons of different topics. You can have humans, the Milky Way's tidal forces, shredding star clusters. That sounds super interesting. And it was published just a few days ago, so I know that it's really accurate information for what we know now. 8 hours ago, you don't see as much color as you think. That might be really interesting to read through. But then when you come down here, some of these things are what you don't really want to choose. So word of the week, those are going to be those definition articles that aren't going to tell you anything recent, even though it was published just a few days ago. It's not actually that informative. Explainers are going to be the same things. So this is going to explain a scientific principle, but it's not actually a current event. And then we're not going to read through experiments because we are going to be doing our own experiments. So you can come on here and it'll tell you different things that are really interesting. Really quickly, you can see that this article was published in October. The Science of Ghosts we did last year in October. So those are going to be too old for me to use. And then they have different videos, but you're going to be reading the articles. So you can come up here and you can scroll through the different topics and find different things you might like or are interested in. Now, Science Daily is a little bit more formal. This is something that is pushed out for the general public to be able to use and to try to just feel like they're up to date in what is happening. So these are the top stories pretty recently. So you can see the woolly rhinos is from August 13th. Exploding stars causing mass extinction is from the 18th. They have top headlines. So if you're really interested in like what's going on right now in the world, they will have everything down here. Loss of enzyme boosts fat metabolism. Smiling gives you a positive outlook on the world. That might be good for some people. There's different environment stuff. Now, this website is really good at breaking down their categories. So you can find things on almost any topic that you're interested in, and it'll go as specific as you want. Quirkiness is always fun. So like Weird World, it's just interesting to see these kind of things. I have seen this wearable tech glove translate sign language into speech. That's actually really interesting to look into. Teleportation in musical performances. I mean, that's kind of interesting. And so you can go through and find an article here. Just remember, it needs to be within that 6-month time frame. Now, these articles tend to be a little bit higher level in their writing. They're still very readable, but just know that you might have to look through a couple of them before you find one that you feel really fits where you are. Science News for Students is very readable and it's pretty easy to understand at any level. So let's go ahead and do this viral sense one because that looks pretty interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I follow my template. I'm going to write down the title and any author. When I start up here, I don't see an author just yet. There we go, right there. So let me pull up my... Okay, so I don't want you to copy down the information from this article. I'm just going to show you the types of information I would pull and how I would fill it out, and then you are going to actually go ahead and complete your own current event from either of those websites, fulfilling all the criteria we talked about. So I'm going to put my title here. Let me do that real fast. All right, so I have my title. I'll put the author is Sharon something that starts with an O. So now I'm going to read through and I'm going to write down at least 3 top facts that I pulled from the article, as well as some of the vocabulary. And I'm just going to go ahead and pause this and come back real fast and show you what that looks like on my sheet. Okay, so I went ahead and I finished reading the article. I wrote down my facts. Let me make this side a little bit bigger. So I wrote down my date for my article as well. I forgot to put that earlier. I wrote down a few good facts with enough supporting evidence that somebody who just reads these facts is really going to understand what it means. It's not just a random sentence pulled out from the article. It might be a collection of different sentences, but facts are typically going to be a little bit heavier than just a bullet point. Then I wrote down 2 words that maybe someone reading the article might not know. So if we say that I didn't know what saliva was, then I would write down and underline it like it was a vocab word, and then I would look that up later. I went ahead and wrote down epidemiologist, which what's really nice about these Science News for Students articles is that at the very bottom, they do define a lot of the words. So you can just write that definition down there, or just quickly type in like saliva in Google, and it can give you a good definition. So then I have a couple more facts. I did end up going to 4 because it was actually a pretty long article, but there was a good amount of information and I didn't want to leave some of it out, including this, my very last one I decided I needed to include because it is saying that the samples they used for dogs to train to make sure they can smell coronavirus are all from positive cases who showed symptoms. So they don't know if this would work for asymptomatic people, which if you're planning on potentially using this in airports or at schools, you're probably more concerned about if an asymptomatic person is there and doesn't know that they're sick. Then the bottom portion right here, I would write a summary. So while I did write down these facts up here, like we said, they're a little bit heavy. There's a lot going on. So treat this summary with 3 to 4 sentences like you're trying to explain it in front of the class. So this is kind of, instead of you having to present it, you can put this quick summary down here. And then your final sentence, or your 4th or 5th sentence of your summary is going to be you saying, in your opinion, what impact this has on society or the world. So my thought would be this could help lower the cost of testing and also keep certain populations safe. I'm trying to come up with this on the fly, from coronavirus. So maybe you could put like a coronavirus sniffing dog at nursing homes to make sure that you're keeping your population who's at a high risk safer. I know I said that in like 3 sentences, but I was trying to figure out, I would condense that down into 1 sentence. So then this is the sheet that you're going to turn in. You've got your title, author, date, facts with any vocab words you didn't know, a summary from your facts, just pulling that information. Again, your facts are in your own words, but you can use all the ideas from the article, and then a final sentence on the impact that it has on society or the world. So now your first official assignment is to go find yourself an article on Science News for Students or Science Daily. And I want you to claim the article by typing the title into Google Classroom under the assignment, making kind of a shared post letting people know which article you've chosen. No more than 2 people can do the exact same article in any given class. And then you are going to hand write out a page just like this so that we can all turn in the same format and then bring it to school on the assigned due date. If you have questions, please show up to the Google Meet or feel free to email me.